Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and there was just enough news in the TWAB to make a video about it, preventing me from going on a lengthy rant about the Facebook metaverse, which I still might do tomorrow because, man, that really bothers me. Anyway, the main focus of the news here for this week at Bungie is the experiments they did with trials and something they are changing going forward, namely deleting the flawless pool, something that has been kind of a common request, although they are keeping some aspects of that in there. In terms of the experiment they ran last week, that was the thing they made where they had a solo fire team playlist for trials and then a dedicated fire team playlist, which the idea behind that is kind of what they do for Iron Banner, where we have solo and team-based ones for that, and if that would make it more accessible. The numbers were actually pretty interesting. Am I skipping over the... No, this is the stuff they did for matchmaking changes. Okay. So overall, the numbers were kind of interesting. So they had 244,000 freelance exclusive players. They had 120,000 fire team exclusive players, so half that. And then 220,000 played both solo and in a fire team over the course of the weekend. So only 25.5% of players went flawless, which is lower than any revamp week. And it's as likely because the match is being fair, and they consider anything above 20% is still attainable, so that is acceptable for them. That's interesting because I know one thing people kept saying about the changes they made is like too many people were going flawless and they were kind of devaluing a bit. So I wouldn't necessarily say dropping it is that big of a deal. Like I don't think like 40% of players need to be flawless in any given weekend, so I don't really have an issue with that. I'm guessing this drop because if you're doing solo, you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever team they slap you with, and they go on to say later that all they were doing was kind of randomly matching people together. So it says one thing that they weren't happy with is team balance. We notice how the solo playlist isn't doing a great job of balancing the teams when there aren't any fire team mismatches. So for trials, it's just picking teams randomly. So they're going to try and lean into changing that a little bit, but so far the numbers look pretty good. So 5-0 games dropped a full 5% from 20% from 30% to 25%, and pretty much all of the important numbers went the right direction. Like you ideally kind of want, I think most people have decided that the ideal is 5-2, 5-3 games, generally speaking, because 5-0, 5-1 feel like blowouts, and then 5-4, if every game is 5-4, that can feel like a little too sweaty. So this only went up by 1%. So this looks like the most promising bit of data to me. Pretty much what they came up with for the end of this is that they do like freelance and they are going to do it sometimes, but they aren't willing to be like, okay, this is how trials should be now. I kind of understand that. I feel like it's not really as clear cut as Iron Banner, so I'm curious to see how often they're going to run this, given that Trials is not also every weekend because every time Iron Banner shows up, Trials is off now. So they are also experimenting with like duo solo fire teams, but they have not figured that out yet. That is kind of a loophole with the current system and can make it feel kind of weird and probably skew some of that data, but that is something they're looking into. The biggest news is probably that they are removing the flawless pool. I believe the flawless pool has existed every weekend except for week 1. With the idea that by pulling flawless players out of the pool, it will let more people go flawless and not have to face people that have already gone flawless. That has worked pretty well for getting the rates up of people going flawless, but there's kind of a dual-headed complaints here where people that just like barely squeak out a flawless and do it once are therefore kind of inspired to quit the weekend entirely because it's just going to be ridiculously hard from there on out. Also, players that go flawless frequently are not wild about pretty much being just in a much, much, much harder pool for pretty much the entire duration of when that pool is active. They have been activating it like midway through the weekend, so it's not the whole weekend, but now what they're doing is they're going to group people with... So they're starting tomorrow. We are rolling out a new system leaning into weekly performance metrics. Whenever you match in trials, in addition to try to match with people with the same number of card wins, you will also attempt to match with people who have roughly the same number of overall wins for the weekend. And then if you can't do that, they will spread it out a bit. So this is kind of what I've been saying for a very long time now, where it doesn't really make any sense for this is even before they made all the changes, but like you kept getting matched with, even if you went flawless once, you can get matched with a flawless team that's gone flawless like 20 times in a weekend. So by kind of taking that out of the equation, like you would maybe go up against the same team. You would go up against, or the team with the same amount of wins or flawless cards as you, like based on total number of wins. And then those ultra sweats, like I guess they would find it going harder and harder as time goes on. And yet, the time it takes to go flawless that many times, like by the time you maybe cranked all those out, you would probably be heading toward the end of the weekend eventually. I think they're just realizing, like they said they were going to phase out the flawless pool for quite a while now. Like they said that almost immediately that they had plans to phase out the flawless pool. I think what they were doing with the flawless pool this whole time was just sort of collecting data to build a system like this. I doubt it will be perfect as soon as they launch it, like nothing ever is, and like we are at our 8th week of trials experiments or whatever we're at now. But this sounds in theory at least like a good idea, and I'm curious how it's going to work. They do say the potential downside is longer matchmaking times, and overall matchmaking times are right now around 50 seconds, but if it gets significantly worse than that, they might have to change some things up. And previous non-labs weeks, this is like all the data. And yeah, that's pretty much, they want all of these at 20%, which I guess I can understand. But and they want more 5-4, 5-3 outcomes than 5-0, 5-1. I would say 5-3, 5-2, but whatever. And they are not really close to that. They are at 28% and 25% for 5-1 and 12 and 14 for 5-3 and 5-4. So that's overall percent. So yeah, they have some work to do there. And so that's kind of the major news from the TWAB is more trials changes, which is, if you're into trials, you might find this interesting, but I don't know if the community player base, they did say earlier on too that the numbers for the total number of players playing trials has gone progressively down and down and down pretty much every weekend, which is not unusual, but we are pretty much a far cry from the massive waves of people that were doing trials, when this experiment first started. Like I personally have not really been playing trials anymore because I'm playing other games, but I also have a lot of good trials loot. Like I got a lot of pretty good loot the first couple of weeks there, and then after that I'm like, you know what, I think I'm good. I don't know if I need to go for the adept roles of everything because getting flawless consistently still is going to require me to probably get a team together or just get really lucky in something like solos. So still not the most appealing to me. So I've been on a bit of a hiatus there along with a lot of other people. The rest of the TWAB, there's not a whole lot. They have a new CM joining, who is Liana from Game Informer, who left Game Informer to join up with Bungie. And I know she is specifically working on Destiny stuff, not their incubation stuff. So I would expect her to probably write some of these TWABs in the future. And yeah, she's a lot of fun. I talked to her on Twitter about Destiny a lot. She's a big fan, and it was really cool to see her get this job. That's very fun. And so, Festival of the Lost stuff, I have to judge my own Halloween contest, which I only have a few days left to do. I think I'm going to reveal the winner on Halloween itself and post a thread, post a video, something like that. And I really like the entries, so I think we've got some good ones. Pretty much there's nothing else except for the very end that confirms that nothing is happening, essentially, for the next entire month plus 5 weeks, whatever it's going to be, until the anniversary event. There is nothing scheduled. There's Iron Banner next week, and I think that's it. I think there's just one thing of Iron Banner, and then Trials, and Cosmo's literally just saying, like, use this time to catch up on Triumphs, or knock out some Catalysts. Like, this is essentially a break period. I do not think they are being sneaky or tricky or secretive about this. A lot of the story beats that we know are coming in Season of the Lost can't really happen until much closer to the Witch Queen launch, like the exorcism of Savathun's worm and stuff like that. So that is stuff we do have to wait on. I'm not going to rule out they may have like some secret planned at some point during the season, but my guess is it would not be in November. If anything, it could be in January or February, but and even what I'm expecting could be like a puzzle. I don't think it would be like Presage or something like that. It would be relatively minor. So November is a huge month for other games. There are a bazillion high-profile games coming out. Unfortunately, Halo comes out literally the day after the anniversary event, which is very poor timing and kind of annoying for fans of both franchises, which is a lot of people. So I wish that was not the case, but here we are. And I will have to figure out how that's going to get balanced. And that's pretty much it for the TWAB. I am probably still going to do my metaverse rant for tomorrow if there's nothing else to talk about with Destiny overnight. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.